All right, welcome back to the First Team Fantasy Podcast. You got Schiff and Derek here. We're gonna get right into these morning games going into Week 5. Had our first game of the week already. That insane Thursday night game that we will
Yeah.
cover here in a later episode. But starting off, the London games return. So everybody who is willing to get up at 6:30 to watch the Jets go into Minnesota or into London to take on the Vikings.
Yeah.
Um, Should be an interesting one. I mean, the Vikings are favored by 2 points on a neutral turf, and it's the over-under is 40.5 points. The Vikings defense has honestly been pretty good throughout this year.
Yeah.
They've only allowed 14.8 points per game and 340 total yards per game. Um, 217 of those being through the air and 123.8 being on the ground. I think you're starting Brees Hall no matter what. Um, Kind of not necessarily saying temper your expectations because of what we saw last week against the Broncos, but this is another defense that has proved to be pretty. I mean, yeah, they almost gave up that huge comeback last week to the Packers, but we've seen quite often that weird things happen in divisional games that, they kind of go against the grain. But I think you're still starting Brees. I wouldn't really prefer to, try to flex Braylon Allen or anything in a game like this against a defense that's going to be tougher. Obviously, way away on the road.
Yeah.
But and then Garrett Wilson, I think we're still starting. It's just at this point if you haven't already, you have to change your expectations as to what we're thinking we're going to get from him. Obviously, the targets are there, but it hasn't really come with too much so far.
Yeah.
But it's kind of one of those things like the targets are there. There's probably not too many people that you would be starting over him, just considering the amount. Like, if, he does happen to actually get, I mean, I don't think we've seen higher than like a 10-point game out of him so far. So you're still keeping that in mind. But I mean, I think right now he's like a wide receiver three.
Yeah.
Like that's in my mind where he's at. But yeah, you're still playing him. And then as for the rest of the guys like Lazard and Conklin, Rogers, Mike Williams, it's a hard week to try to start. The Vikings have looked really good and not just against pushover teams. Their defense did very well against both the Niners and the Texans. So, um, I'm if you have to start like an Alan Lazard, a Tyler Conklin, because granted, we are getting into the bye weeks now, so you might be missing some people, and you might not have been able to get anybody quality on the waiver wire. So if that's something that you're forced into, having to start one of those guys, I don't hate it. But just looking at this, the over under isn't the lowest, but it's not really the highest either. Minnesota's got a good defense, so it's kind of tough throwing them out there.
Yeah. No, I mean, one note about Conklin is, there are still some pretty big names on the injury report, especially at the tight end position. The past two games, he has seen an increased volume at least. So if that's a pivot, like if you're looking at the waiver wire and, at this point, there aren't too many options out there. So if that's something you have to make, at least it seems the past couple of games he's gotten increased volume, so that is a positive note. But I agree, I'm avoiding. You know, it's just tough, and yeah, the Minnesota defense has been solid in fantasy. They're the number one defense, so they do wreak havoc. And the Jets have shown that they let teams get home to Rodgers a little bit. So we will see with that. The Vikings side of the ball, this game surprisingly is one of the few games that doesn't really have notable injuries on the offensive side of the ball for either team.
Mm, Morgan Moses being out for the Jets. I mean,
Yeah,
I guess I could have brought that up. That is their starting right tackle. That is kind of on me for leaving that out. Which, I mean, like I said, you're still starting Brees, but it's like just keeping that in the back of your mind.
yeah,
Might not be exactly like last week, but it could
yeah.
be.
No, I mean for sure. And the Jets defense is also very solid. They're only giving up 15 and a half points a game. They're only giving up 128 passing yards through the air. That's what intrigues me the most about this one is something is going to have to give a little bit. Sam Darnold's been on absolute fire. And I mean, there's no reason, especially if you have like a Jettas or someone, an Addison, and if your QB's on bye, even if they're not, like guys like Baker Mayfield and Sam Darnold are starting to become guys that, like you said, we can't just keep going off name value for some of these quarterbacks. If these are the guys getting it done, then we have to put him in. And Sam Darnold hasn't given us a reason. I would say through the air, this is his biggest test. But I mean, Houston also had a very solid defense or pass defense. They only gave up 161 yards. So we'll see. I don't mind the Sam Darnold start if you want to make it. What are you pondering?
So the Jets opened up with the Niners. Purdy threw for like two something. Um, I don't know what Brissett threw against them.
Probably not much, to be fair.
No, I don't think he threw for much. But I was just thinking like yes, their defense is good, but Bo Nix threw for 60 yards, which
The,
skews that number. I mean, granted, it's only been 4 weeks, so that 60-yard game kind of, which
you're not wrong. Their test through the 4 weeks outside of Brock Purdy has been Will Levis, Jacoby Brissett, and Bo Nix. But we do know that the Jets have a good secondary. Like that's the
definitely,
best part of
definitely,
their.
definitely.
So
It's yeah, I was just thinking like this will be like one of the first. I mean, they got beat week 1.
yeah,
They got beat pretty handily.
yeah,
And I don't know. We'll see. Sam Darnold's been doing very well. This will be a very big test for the Jets defense as well as the Vikings offense.
for sure. And something the Jets defense doesn't do the greatest at, it's stop the run. We've seen Aaron Jones be incredible through the first 4 weeks, and I think it continues. You obviously are rolling Aaron Jones, you're rolling Justin Jefferson. Jordan Addison, I mean, you roll him. His targets haven't been the highest. I think he's been below 5. Um, but he's one of those guys. He's a big play guy. Sam Darnold's been finding it downfield. And if they get in a situation where, they have to pass the ball, they do have extremely limited, reliable options through the air. It's really just him and Justin Jefferson. I mean, Jalen Naylor. But we saw with Addison's return, Naylor kind of disappeared. So I don't, you start your guys with the Vikings. If you want to roll the Vikings defense, I don't see a reason why not to at this point. The Jets haven't given me too many reasons to where I'm like, I just can't play the Vikings defense against these guys. So again, they're the number one fantasy defense. They've gone against San Francisco. They went against Houston. They went against Green Bay. Even the Green Bay game where they ended up giving up all those points, they still finished with 9 fantasy points. They wreak havoc. With Morgan Moses out, they'll probably get to Aaron Rodgers. They're a defense I definitely like coming into this week.
Yeah.
And
No.
our our next game is the Bills at the Texans.
Did you just see how many people are injured in this game?
Yes, but I mean, for fantasy players on the Bills side of the ball, there's only one. I mean, it's a big name, and I'm curious to see how it affects the rest of their team. But yeah, the Bills go to Houston. The over/under is 47. Houston's favored by 1. And the Bills side of the ball, obviously, Josh Allen and James Cook were clearly starting. Dalton Kincaid's been trending in an upwards direction. And even with, you feel like, oh, Kincaid should be doing more. And I agree with you, but he's still the tight end 9. So he still should be starting in your 10-man fantasy league, definitely your 12-man. So Kincaid's an obvious start out there. Khalil Shakir is missing this game with an ankle injury. And this is the hole it opens up because if the Texans are able, again, we talk about the Bills, and every one of their games just seems like they either go up a whole bunch. They haven't been in a position other than the Ravens game, and they still, Josh Allen still didn't throw it that many times. He's threw it 29 times, but
It was a weird, just the way that game went was they weren't really able to protect Josh Allen
yeah,
as much as they would have probably liked to. So he was on the run a lot, and then I just don't think the Ravens allowed them to play the game that they wanted to.
yeah,
But if looking at these injuries, I know we talked about Khalil Shakir on the Bills' offense. Looking at their defense and all the guys that are out, they might this they might have to unleash Josh Allen this week because look,
yeah,
I mean Taylor Rapp. Just to note on Taylor Rapp, it was crazy because talking about how like we saw how he got hurt. He got a concussion tackling Derrick Henry. Just something that I would never want to do. But Taylor Rapp, they're starting safeties out. Ed Oliver, they're starting D tackles out. Another starting D tackle. And then I think Bernard and then Taron Johnson, two of the other starters are questionable. And they're
yeah. They're
already
banged
missing,
up.
Matt Milano. This and this is a hot Texans offense.
Yeah, yeah. It
They could, it could be a very high scoring game.
and if they get in that position, no one is more primed to have that potential breakout game than Keon Coleman. I,
I agree.
it's him, Mac Hollins, and Curtis Samuel. And Curtis Samuel has not played to any. I didn't have crazy high expectations. I expected a little more than this, I will say. And,
Well, yeah, I mean it's fair to say that you expected more than that.
we expected a
Yeah,
little bit more than this. But to be fair, a lot of the pass catchers haven't really had to do much outside of Shakir. So Keon Coleman, his most targets in a game is 5, and that was week 1. He saw 4 last week. It's a tough one because, he's not a guy that has ever given you like a solid fantasy week just yet. But this could be the week. We have buys, we have injuries, depending how your roster looks. If you have to throw in Keon Coleman, I think it could be a good play.
no, I agree with you. I mean, he had some opportunities last week. A couple deep balls came down with one of them, dropped the other one, and the opportunity is going to be there this week. 100% going to be there. And yeah, him, Kincaid, James Cook, Josh Allen.
Not
You
Tyler
rolling?
Bass. Don't say it. Were you going to say Tyler
Yeah,
Bass?
I had him. I dropped him
I,
because David dropped Justin Tucker.
I mean, okay. No, Tyler Bass is kicker number
I
17.
mean,
No,
I had to. I had to get Tucker.
fair play.
I got the jersey. So I mean, but going into the Texans side of the ball, one thing that I did just mention was kind of the lack of starting defenders for the Bills. Um, I do believe that. Oh, I guess it is something that should be noted that Joe Mixon is missing yet another game. It's going to be tempting to play Cam Akers, and honestly, some people are not going to have the choice. I mean, straight up.
Yeah,
If you look at all the running backs that are injured, we've got a lot of significant guys on bye this week. I'm in a position where I'm starting Chase Brown. I know there's a couple of other, like one of our other friends is starting Justice Hill. It it's kind of the landscape that we're in right now. So I mean,
yeah,
if you're starting Cam Akers, you're starting Cam Akers, and you're closing your eyes, holding your breath, and hoping for the best. Um,
yeah.
but I truly do think that Nico is going to have a great day,
Hmm.
as he has been. I think he will continue to eat. Um, as far as Tank Dell, he's not any longer on the injury report, so it should be, his first game back healthy. And I think him and Stephon Diggs, I'm Stephon Diggs right now. Like I said, he starts hot pretty much like every year, and he's still like in that phase right now where I'm still starting him with complete confidence. Um, and going against his old team,
Yeah,
you can't help but think that they're going to give him a couple extra targets
for sure.
and just kind of show him like, yeah, this is what you let go. But yeah, I mean, you're starting your usual guys on Houston. It's unfortunate that Joe Mixon is missing again because this would probably be a really good game for him. Um, and then I don't know. I don't think you're really messing around with Dalton Schultz.
Mm.
But if you want to go ahead and throw, I mean, kickers, it's hard to sit here and truly like recommend kickers every week because one week they can go off for 12, 15, 20. And the next week, the team just scores 5 touchdowns, 4 touchdowns, and they don't need to kick a field goal. Is it a bad week from the kicker? On the fantasy sheet, yeah. But in real life, no, he did everything he needed to do, kick 4 extra points.
Yeah,
So that's why it's tough with kickers. I mean, you really have to kind of just play the over under and hope for the best, in my opinion.
yeah.
But so in that case, I mean, I guess Fairbairn is a pretty good option. Over under is 47. They're favored by a point, so we'll see how that goes. But yeah, it's really all I got for that one, unless you have anything else on the Texans.
No, I mean, like you said, the only thing I was going to touch on, and you brought it up, was just the Stephon Diggs revenge game. It I'm hoping Tank Dell makes an appearance. I want to say that. It's been. I did not think. I thought him and Stephon Diggs would potentially take turns for weeks off. You know, not everyone can hold their value, but so far it's just been Tank Dell not holding the value at all. So it's been disappointing
Yeah,
from him.
nah, I completely agree. And he's been a little banged up, but
Yeah.
something that we also saw a little bit last year. So yeah, just hoping for better days out of Tank Dell. Um, Going into our next game. And just looking at it, the injuries for the Cleveland Browns look pretty insane. It's a little laundry list there. But it's the Browns heading into Washington to take on the Commanders, who are 3-1. The over-under in this one's 43.5, and the Commanders are favored by 3. This is just something like before the season, if you would have saw the Browns and Commanders with an over-under of 43.5, whoa, that's pretty high.
Yeah.
Um, Especially the Browns' offense has been so bad. But looks like they might be getting David Njoku back this week. He's looking it's looking like a game time decision right now. With that ankle, he's still questionable. The one that will not be playing this week, unfortunately, for a lot of people who were hoping he'd be coming back, is Nick Chubb. Um,
Yeah.
I mean, hopefully he just comes back. Period. This week was a bit of a stretch for him to actually make it back and play, but no, he will not be back this week. So it is yet another week where Jerome Ford is usable. Get what you can out of it. Um, and then as far as that, I mean, everyone else is relatively healthy for not every. I mean, their offensive line is decimated, but the fantasy players, the guys that we start in fantasy, they're doing fairly well. Which leads us to Deshaun Watson. How do we feel about him as kind of a streaming candidate this week? Might get Njoku back, kind of his safety net. Um, Washington's defense isn't the greatest. Granted, I don't know if Arizona really held themselves to that lack of points last week or if that was really Washington's defense's doing. But Washington's defense has been bad. What
Yeah.
what what do you think about Watson?
I think Mahomes has 62 and a half fantasy points through 4 weeks, and Deshaun is 57.8. So if you're sitting there like Mahomes is staying in my lineup no matter what, you have guys on bye, whatever the case is. I don't think Deshaun's the worst option. I absolutely don't. Because again, his worst week was against Dallas and he gave you 12.6. His best was 16.4. He seems like a guy that's not going to completely burn you. And yeah, if he happens to have a solid week, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he gets, 15 to 18 fantasy points this week. I think he could be solid. I don't
Yeah,
mind
I
him.
mean, I think it could be a decent start. I think you're starting Amari Cooper. I think
Yeah.
honestly, Jerry Jeudy isn't the worst play this week, just against this defense. He's been an involved part of that offense. And I mean, like I said, Jerome Ford got another week of him. So, but other than that, I mean, there's not really too like Elijah Moore. I'm not trying to get in my lineup or anything like that. And the Browns defense, it's you want to think that you can, but Washington's offense has been good.
Mm-hmm.
And even then, it's just I do get a little concerned. Like I know I'm saying like yes, I like being able. I think we can start Deshaun. I think you could start, Judy this week. But we have realistically seen the offensive line. We saw what they did against New York. If it is anything like that, and they can't protect Watson, and he's just getting, then it's just gonna be. I don't think you'll be able to start the Cleveland defense this week. Is what I'm trying to say.
I would agree with
It,
that.
it's just too hard. Like with the firepower of the Washington offense and just the potential of just that offensive line is so bad that the defense might be on the field all the time,
Mm-hmm.
which doesn't matter how good a defense is at that point.
Yeah. No, and I'd agree. Washington got after Kyler a bit last week, but outside of that, they had 4 sacks last week, but they had 1 sack the first two and then two the next. So, but yeah, Cleveland's depleted line. I still feel safe starting Deshaun if you have to. Jerome Ford,
Yeah.
Amari, have a good game for once, Amari. I know you had one good game, but show me something, please.
Yeah, no, don't hear what I'm not saying. I am still confident in the Browns starts, like I said. It's just in the back of my mind, I always have that performance against the Giants where they
For
went out
sure.
and just they let the Giants defensive line go every single play. It was like pressure
Yeah.
every play. So that's just my only concern. But again, still have the confidence in the starts.
Yeah. And it's that way with the Commanders side of the ball. Like, obviously, Jaden Daniels has been incredibly electric. You're rolling him, you're rolling Scary Terry. Brian Robinson is going to be a game time decision with a knee injury. Dan Quinn did say he was trending the right way. Um, he practiced it in a limited capacity Friday. There's no update as of today. That's something to heavily monitor. If he can go, I there's no reason for me to think not to start him. He's gone double digits all 4 weeks in the first buys that are hitting the running back room. I don't mind playing him even if he's a little banged up. If he can't go, honestly, either way, actually, I think Austin Eckler is going to be a decent start. I really do.
He should be. I
He
think Austin Eckler will be a good play because even if Robinson can go and like I don't see why they wouldn't involve Eckler like they had been
mm-hmm.
before he got that concussion, especially with, Robinson being a little banged up.
Yeah, Eckler's gone double digits all 3 weeks. I think he's been solid for Washington, and I think he'll continue to be so. I know he's projected a little low this week, but again, like if I'm picking Eckler over, like, would you rather start Cam Akers or Eckler?
Oh, Austin Eckler.
That's what
I'd
I'm
rather
saying.
start Austin Eckler over just to name some names if like these are some guys that you're looking at, like Zach Charbonnet, Chase Brown, Rico Dowdle,
Yeah,
you know, um,
I just haven't been. We haven't been burned by Eckler, and he's not a guy that's going to go out and win you the week. But when you're putting in, a backup or a plug in to
Trey
fill,
Sermon.
yeah, you want a guy that's not going to lose you the week. And I think Eckler can give you a solid 10. So, and the last guy I want to touch on is Zach Ertz. Have to bring him up every week. He's the tight end 10 through 4 weeks. So if you're in a 10-man league, that means technically Zach Ertz should be a starter on one of those teams. He's been consistent. He's another guy that's not going to win you the week, but for the tight end position, he's going to get some volume, he's going to get some catches, and he's not going to burn you. So I don't mind if you want to roll Zach Ertz. I don't mind. He's still only 49% rostered, so there's a 50-50 shot. As we keep going, you'll see there's a couple tight ends that are missing or potentially missing. So if you have to pivot, I'd pick him up at least for the safe option of if your guy does miss, you got a guy that can fill in the spot. But I mean, outside of that, again, the kickers, the Commanders score a good amount. If you want to roll their kicker, I don't mind it. I'm not rolling their defense. They're currently ranked 30th fantasy-wise, so
That's not something that we could tell you.
that is something I will stay away from because that's not ideal. Our next game, which actually should be a pretty interesting one. It's the Colts going to Jacksonville and taking on the Jaguars. The over-under is 45.5. Jacksonville's favored by 3. While I personally think the Jags will get their first win of the season, fantasy-wise, I do think there is still some good options on the Colts side of the ball. Anthony Richardson is doubtful with that hip injury, so if he does miss, it does look like the old man Joe Flacco will go out there again. He looked good against Pittsburgh.
You know who else looked good? Michael Pittman Jr.
Absolutely. I will say
Man.
Anthony Richardson did get him the ball decently up the field a couple times. I'm not trying to just be like, oh, it was because Joe Flacco came in.
He had 60 yards with Richardson. But it's like I have way more shares of Pittman than I am comfortable with. So
you'll be a little more comfortable with Flacco, hopefully.
Yes.
But and to even help that case a little bit more, Jonathan Taylor will be missing this one with an ankle injury. Trey Sermon is set to get extended volume, and he's a guy that was highly touted coming out of college. This is his 4th year in the league. He's never ran the ball more than 41 times in an entire season, and I want to say he's at least going to run it 10 times. He's someone that I don't have a bunch of... if you had Jonathan Taylor and you have no other option, and you're like, oh, I picked up Sermon, I have to play him, hope he gets in the end zone. But I don't have... I don't care if they tell me he's projected 10.3. If he finished under that 10.3, I wouldn't be surprised. I just wouldn't.
I wouldn't either. The Jaguars' defense has been horrible.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they've only given up more yards per game. Or only 2 more teams have given up more yards per game than them. One of them being the team on the other side of the field. But I mean, they're giving up 380 yards a game, total yards a game right now. Colts are giving up 399.8, which is insane. And the Jaguars are giving up 27.3 points per game, which is 30th in the league right now.
And you do have to trickle in there that, the Jaguars have had a rough schedule to start. They did play the Dolphins, a fully healthy Dolphins. They did play the Bills, and that was 47 points.
It was the only thing, for me, the thing, the Colts scored 27 on the Steelers last week.
Yeah, they did.
And then granted, the Steelers' competition might not have been the best, so we have yet to see how good their defense truly is. This week against the Cowboys will be a great test. But I'm just looking at this offense hey,
this should be a good week.
Score. This should be a good week for them. I'm not afraid to start my Colts.
Yeah, I really like the pass catchers like Michael Pittman. He's an absolute start. He broke double digits finally and got pretty heavily over double digits. He's still not caught a touchdown yet. I would be happy to see that change this week, and there's a good chance it could. Josh Downs, he came back. He's the freaking wide receiver too there, man. At least volume wise. Josh Downs saw he's someone I actually if you want to throw him at like the flex or something this week, I
I
love it.
think it would be good, especially if Joe Flacco's playing quarterback.
Yeah, he had 9 targets. He caught 8 for 82. He's going to be a good start. Alec Pierce,
I think Pierce is a good play when Richardson's playing, or Pierce is a decent like shot when Richardson's playing.
he's down there somewhere if Richardson's playing for sure.
Exactly. But
But
when it's Flacco, we see
it's
where the targets are going.
yeah, and I mean outside of that, I'm not looking at Kylan Granson. Adonai Mitchell has not cracked that top 3 receivers just yet. As we talked about, surprisingly, with all the yards, we were talking about Jackson, but the Colts defense do give up a lot of yards, but they do wreak a little bit of havoc. And Jacksonville has not been the greatest on their side of the ball. The Colts are currently the defense 13. I'm not looking to start them this week, but we'll see. I like my 2 pass catchers. I like Josh Downs. I like Michael Pittman. If you have to throw Trey Sermon, I don't mind it.
I think you don't have a choice. Like, if you picked up Trey Sermon this week, it was probably because.
Well, we had someone in our league that learned the hard way before, and now he's playing against Jonathan Taylor. And he said, let me pick up Trey Sermon so he can't get his backup. Because I heard someone else
Okay,
picked up Jordan Mason when he had McCaffrey.
I wonder who that could have been. Definitely not my co-host, but yeah, no, I mean, talking about the Colts defense and how they have given up quite a bit, the Colts are like historically bad against the Jaguars. I don't know what it is, but it's just one of those things where it doesn't matter how good the Colts are, like they can't beat the Jags. It just doesn't make sense. And realistically, I mean, just given what the Colts defense looks like this year, you get Joe Flacco in this game. A lack of it, Jonathan Taylor means they're probably going to be passing at a bit higher of a rate.
Yeah.
2 bad defenses. I like. I feel comfortable streaming Trevor Lawrence this week. This is one week where I like, and just for example, I mean, this is going to be really nasty, but in Dynasty, we're playing each other. I have um, Andy Dalton and Trevor Lawrence kind of as my options for the QB2 because we play Superflex. And I feel comfortable starting Trevor Lawrence this week. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like truly comfortable.
Yeah.
And I mean, him, obviously, you're rolling. At least I am without really even looking at it. I'm leaving Brian Thomas Jr. in my lineup every single week.
Yeah.
I'm so comfortable with it at this point, and he's only going to continue getting better. And I mean, Christian Kirk is obviously a good start this week as well, but Evan Ingram, I would love to know exactly what's going on.
He's not playing.
Oh, he's not.
He's not playing.
Okay. Well, there's that. Yeah, because he's currently listed as questionable, but
Yeah, they said very 2 hours ago he's not expected to play. I know a lot of the time, like just to preface, a lot of the time we'll take our notes like the night before, get it prepped for, hit it the next morning. But yeah, Evan Ingram is not expected to play. It will be Brenton
yep,
Strange yet again.
yet again.
He really messed up that hamstring pregame, dude. He's been out 4 weeks from it.
Wow.
He's been out a whole month. And they need him. They're 0-4. And he's still not healthy
Yeah,
enough to
no,
play.
that's it just
It's
he suffered the
unbelievable.
hamstring injury during the pregame warmups. We've talked about that. Could miss a 4th consecutive game.
Yeah.
Like, but what did you do in the warmups? What did you do?
Thing fell
How did
off
you
the
get
bone or
that hurt?
something, dude. He's
A
toast.
4-week hamstring injury in warmups is just not unheard of, obviously, but it's oh my God, it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Anyways, so there we are. Evan Ingram's not going to be playing as of 2 hours ago. Um, but yeah, Christian Kirk, the last 2 weeks have been better.
Yeah.
I think we're putting him in. And Travis Etienne, you're playing him. It's been rough, but you're playing him. The thing is, he hasn't necessarily burned you, with the exception of last week. I don't think he performed too well.
He did not.
Um,
This is hopefully the week.
this should be,
It should.
I mean, granted, the Jags are favored by 3 at home. This could be the get right week for the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Mm-hmm.
Peterson's ass is on the line. There's a whole bunch of questions around Lawrence. This should very well be the get right week for the Jags. I mean, whether or not they win, I don't know, but I think we should see a lot better out of this offense than we have. I mean, they looked better last week against Houston, but I think we can actually look forward to watching the Jaguars play this weekend.
Yeah. Here's a quick question. Half PPR.
Far away.
I know we normally talk full PPR, but just for the question, half PPR.
Oh God.
Amari Cooper or Christian Kirk?
See, it's hard because Amari Cooper.
He has the higher touchdown upside, right? Like Christian Kirk may catch more passes, but Amari may go further down
And
the
that's the thing,
field.
Christian Kirk may catch more passes. Brian Thomas might end up, leading the team in targets this week. So
Yeah.
that's one thing we don't know. One thing we do know is that there's probably not going to be anybody else in Cleveland getting more targets than Amari Cooper.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I'd roll Amari for sure. I thought about it and realized I didn't need to think about it. And then, so our next one, it's regrettable that we have to bring it up, but the Miami Dolphins are unfortunately going into Foxborough to play the New England Patriots this week, where
Mm-hmm.
the over-under is 35.5 points, and Dolphins are favored by 1 on the road. Um, yeah, I don't know about that one, but it's looking like it's gonna be another week of Pro Bowl quarterback Tyler Huntley. I get to actually joke about it
Stop.
now that he's not on my team anymore. Um, I mean, man, what can you really, if you have Tyreek and Achan, good luck.
Yeah, I'm
I
looking to
mean,
keep
it's
Waddle out if I can.
that's why I didn't mention Waddle. It's
Yeah.
I mean, Reek always has that possibility to just break one, but I mean, realistically, if you have a good option, like, I don't know, if I would have recommended, if I would have had Tyreek and Darnell Mooney on Thursday, I probably would have started Darnell Mooney. If I
Yeah.
mean, this is crazy. I think I'd start Dontavian Wicks over Tyreek Hill this week.
For sure. Okay. That. Yes. Yes.
It's just, but that's where we've gotten to, and
Yeah, it's
it's
disgusting.
hard to. It's like when you really think about it, it's the same thing with the whole Mark Andrews thing going on. It's like I am starting Tucker Kraft over him this week,
Yeah.
and I don't feel bad about it.
No.
I think the Tyreek one you'd feel a bit worse about starting Dontavian Wicks over him, but it's just where we're at. And I mean, if you have a bet, the running back thing I think is a bit harder because I mean we know Achan's probably not going to get. I mean we know he's just not a between the tackles runner
Mm-hmm.
like that, and they haven't really been giving him the opportunity to catch too many passes out of the backfield recently. So if you don't really have any other options, then go ahead. But I mean, it's just I think it's going to be gross. I'd really if the defenses might be the highest scores in this game, and that's where I will leave that.
Yeah. It's kind of crazy that it took, like last year, Achan was so explosive running the ball. And everyone was like, why isn't he getting all these more, more play than Raheem, Jeff Wilson, and then you kind of, at least as of now, it seems like they needed that. You needed Raheem and Jeff Wilson getting random carries. Then you brought in Achan and he kind of just popped. But when he's the lead guy, and the past couple weeks the only guy, it just hasn't been there. So
Yeah, he's effective in space. If you can't get him space, and he's still a good football player, but he's small. He's not a big guys bouncing off and breaking tackles
yeah,
runner.
it's one of the
So
rare cases I just kind of feel like Achan may play better with Mostert also in. Like he has.
yeah,
At least the small sample size we have. He's played better with Mostert out
the
there.
more it opens up, the more opportunity he has to actually
Yeah.
use his talent.
The Patriots side of the
Oh,
ball.
Odell might play.
He is going to play. He was activated. Odell is playing. Do what you want with that information. He will be playing.
Yeah, whatever that's worth.
Yeah.
Watch him get a touchdown.
No, I was thinking. I was literally right when I was like, he will play. I was thinking like, watch
I'm
him.
pretty
Yeah, be the
sure
number
last year when
one
he was on the
receiver.
Ravens, Tyler Huntley threw him his first touchdown as a Raven.
That's a
So
stat
strange
no
that
one
it
would have
might happen
known
again.
unless you were a Ravens fan.
Yeah, because you watched it happen, you were like, really? But yeah, now they're teammates again.
Yeah. Um. Somehow, I always end up with the Patriots. Like we even keep like we've been every week we alternate like who's doing like what side of the ball, and the Patriots fell to me again.
And then it's just the curse of Mondre
It
following
is.
you.
It is. And speaking of the curse of Mondre, he's really the only player I wanted to touch on. Now we can touch on Antonio Gibson a little bit more. Gerard Mayo has stated Antonio Gibson is slated to make the start for the Patriots in week 5. Now, do I think this just means he's going to get bulk of the carries and Mondre's not? No. But it is definitely concerning for someone like me that is now dealing with buys and was planning on having to put Mondre into the lineup. It's concerning. Cav, the positive side I'm looking at it in this game is I think everyone's expecting this one to be gross. Passing won't be the biggest thing. Patriots are gonna have to
Nobody's
run
gonna
the
need
ball
to play
here.
catch up.
Yeah, they're gonna have to run the ball in this one. I still think even with it, it can. I'm still hoping Mondre can have a solid week, and I still think he can. He needs to stop fumbling the ball. It is rich that he is now benched for fumbling, and Antonio Gibson is your starter. It's incredible turn of events, but Antonio Gibson is capable. Um, he had one game where he had a pretty large run. Other than that, he hasn't ran it efficiently. Mondre hasn't ran it that efficiently other than the first game. It's just been not good for the Patriots offense. So
Yeah.
again, if you have Mondre, I would like to be able to pivot to other options. Like here, we'll get really disgusting. Mondre or Cam Akers?
Probably my. No, it's hard just because I mean I know I didn't bring it up when we were talking about that game, but it seems like there is a chance that Dameon Pierce plays, which could just muddle it even more because of also the
Yeah. Say
involvement
he
that
doesn't
Dare
though.
Ogunbowale has had. So I mean,
Say he doesn't, and it's Cam
yeah, so
Akers and
I'd go Mondre just because like at the very least we know it's pretty much just Mondre and Gibson, and I mean I know we don't know whether Gibson getting the start means he just gets the first couple snaps. If they go 3 and out, it's the first drive, but we don't know if he
yeah.
gets the entire first drive, or we don't know exactly what Mayo's plan is, but I mean, definitely thinking that Mondre is still going to be heavily involved in this game.
Yeah, he's gonna have to be. And I mean, outside of that, like the only other guy we can touch on a bit is Hunter Henry. But like I said, Hunter Henry had that huge week. poof. The other 3
It's the Hunter
weeks
Henry
have
experience.
been not good. So I just don't feel comfortable starting any of them. If you have some, I don't even want to say the Patriots defense. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if they had a solid week, but no, no. That's close the book on that game completely. It's going to be an ugly one. This next game
Yeah.
should be a bit more exciting. It is the Panthers going into Chicago and taking on the Bears. The over-under is 41. The Bears are favored by 4. I'm curious to see Andy Dalton. Um, I'm more so curious if the Panthers don't win games, even if Andy Dalton is playing at a better level, how long is the Andy Dalton experience going to last? And it won't be his doing or anything, but as long as he is in, we are riding the high on the fantasy value he has provided to some of these weapons in Carolina. Chuba Hubbard is a guy, I mean, you're just going to have to start this week. He's exploded the past 2 weeks and even had a solid week 2 against the Chargers. He's been running the ball efficiently. He's got in the end zone. He catches passes out the backfield. He's a guy we start. Deontay, this Bears defense is, especially Bears secondary, is nothing to scoff at. They are. Jalen Johnson is one of the best corners in the league. I assume he'll be blanketing Deontay, but he's still a guy we absolutely have to start. Xavier Legette saw a huge increase this past week. Depending how your roster looks and everything, like if you told me you had to start him, I don't mind it. I don't mind it. I think there can be, he had the one good week outside of that. He hasn't really put up too strong of outings. But with Adam Thielen now gone, it opens up that wide receiver 2 role that he stepped into. He's playing over 80% of snaps. If you want to roll Legette, I don't mind it at all. And I mean, outside of that, that's really it. Andy Dalton's he's been slinging it a little bit, but this one in Chicago, I think hopefully you have a better option.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think the Panthers might win this game. Um, just because it's the real veteran going against a rookie, and I think
Yeah.
you just might see the effects of that in this game. Regardless of how I think it'll be close, but I genuinely think this will be an enjoyable game to watch. One
Yeah.
thing though about we were talking about if the Panthers don't find a way to start winning or whatever. I've seen things about Deontay possibly getting traded if they can't get it together. So something to also watch out for. Everybody who does have Xavier Legette, like, I've been holding on to
Yeah.
him. He could very well, especially like in a dynasty setting, like that is huge news.
Mm-hmm.
Could end up taking on that number one role a lot sooner than anybody ever would have thought.
Yeah.
But going on to the Chicago side of the ball, oh, we got a name to talk about.
I feel like I know who you're
What are
going to
we doing
say.
with DeAndre Swift?
We're starting him. We have to. We have to this week. With the buys happening, with him performing how he performed, we have to. That's just my opinion. I just
Yeah,
think we
I
have to.
mean, I agree with you. I definitely think with the buys and the injuries, so on and so forth. Um, but
It's scary.
yeah, I feel like, not last week, but when the Raiders and Panthers played, we were like, this is it. This is and granted, we know that game got away from the Raiders. They're not able to run the ball when it's going like that.
Yeah.
I just get a bit worried that I mean, DeAndre Swift caught all 7 of his targets for like 72, 77 yards last week. if they can continue incorporating that, I'm not worried about DeAndre Swift for the rest of the year. They paid him good money to go
Yeah.
in and be that feature back. But if that goes away, I do not believe that efficiency we saw last week. That is not real. That is
Yeah.
not real. We have not seen that consistently out of DeAndre Swift ever, ever in his career. Like, never. So that is a fairy tale. That is make believe.
Hmm.
If we can keep the pass catching going, great. So that's just my one concern. If they don't continue going to him in the pass game, he will get yet again relegated to a bench spot. And
Yeah.
but right, if he continues doing what he did this past week, catching passes, I mean, like, yeah, we said you're starting him either way, but it just became like, okay, DeAndre Swift is getting to the point of drop candidate to, oh my God, here's the guy drafted.
Yeah. At least he had
So
the breakout game coming into
he did.
Carolina. He
He
had
did
the solid
coming
game,
into
so
Carolina. So it's one that if yeah, we're starting him, it's the process is right, which typically means we get burned by guys like this.
yep.
Um, but I mean, for the other guys, I think you're starting DJ Moore. Um, what order would you rank the Bears wide receivers in for like startability? Obviously, DJ Moore's coming in at the top. But then how do you feel
I would
about
still
Adunze and Keenan Allen?
I'd put Keenan slightly over Adunze. Only here's the thing, if it's gonna be like Adunze had that, the touchdown, he's more of a deep threat. He's gonna get you the bulk yards. But from this line not being able to protect and a guy that can go up 3 to 6 yards and get himself open, it's gonna be the vet. And he came back from injury, didn't get crazy volume, but just off week one alone with Tennessee, he's shown who will throw the ball to Keenan.
What about Cole Kmet? He had the big blow up week in week 3 against Indy. Obviously, Keenan Allen wasn't playing that week,
Yeah, I
but
mean,
he got 11 targets, and then the week Keenan comes back, cat sighting.
yeah, he can.
Um, I mean, week 1, Keenan was playing, and granted, that was when they were still trying to. I think they've decided that Cole Kmet is going to be their guy over Gerald Everett,
Dude, either that
which
or
in
he
week
was like
1,
sick or something coming into that week because it made no
yeah,
sense.
because since then, I mean, his snaps have just gone up from 48% to 77 to 81 and 90 last week. I think he's going to be there and on the field. I mean, from what it looks like, he's not going to goose you. And in the tight end world,
I
that
think you
might
can roll
be.
him. I think you
Yeah,
can
it seems
roll
like
Cole.
after week 1, he's gotten at least 3 targets. That was his lowest this past game outside of week 1, was 3 targets. So, I mean, for a tight end, if you're I mean, he's caught, I think, all but 2 of his targets this year.
Yeah,
So,
and the game script also this past week was kind of weird. Like week one, Caleb threw it 29 times, then 37, then 52. He only threw it 23 times. So targets, and you got to think 7 of those were DeAndre Swift, and 6 of those were DJ Moore. So it's hard to go off what happened last week when Keenan came back. Like, because I'm like, Cole Kmet blew up the first 2 weeks with Keenan gone. Keenan comes back, Cole gets 3 targets. Well, none of these guys really got that many targets. It was a
yeah, that
weird
is
game.
true. I guess that just doesn't make, and probably brings it into question more, like how much can you trust really the pass catchers as a whole on
Yeah.
that team? Because it's like, when it goes, yeah, we get Keenan back, and then they start finally utilizing DeAndre Swift in the passing game.
Mm-hmm.
It is still early. We're a month in. Like we said, we're about a quarter of the way through, but it does just kind of raise questions as to like what it is going to consistently look like from a week to week basis on this offense.
For sure. for
or
sure.
if it's going to be like the Ravens and there is no consistent look from a week to week basis.
The only safe play on the Chicago side of the ball is DJ Moore. He hasn't had that crazy upside, but he's been safe. He's given you double digits every week.
Yeah. And then I think Cairo Santos, fine start. Caleb, I mean, honestly, if we're to, I hate to say it, but I think I'd rather go with like Deshaun Watson this week. I think I'd rather play Joe Flacco this week. Um,
I might rather play Andy Dalton, to be honest. Like if I really had to
maybe.
put, if I really had to, Caleb just has not.
I'm not ready to put him into streaming contention yet.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's really all I got for that one. And it'll take us into our final morning game, which is the Baltimore Ravens heading into Cincinnati to take on the Bengals. Ravens are favored by 2.5 on the road. The over/under is 48.5, something that we like to see. On the Ravens side of the ball, no real daunting injuries, honestly. It's just crazy to say in week 5 considering the past years. And pretty much the same for the Bengals too. Both
Yeah.
teams looking fairly healthy through AFC North football. That is odd and rare. Um, but we'll take it. So for the Ravens, this has become one of the toughest teams to navigate from a fantasy perspective
It has. It has.
because it's like realistically, you'd like to say just perma bench everybody but Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson.
Yeah.
But just considering what you paid for Mark Andrews and I know we talk about you got to give up the draft capital, but when it comes to the tight end and what you gave up to draft that tight end, it's kind of hard to just like
Drop
when
him.
it's a guy that you drafted in the 10th round that you picked, then it's not so difficult. But when you drafted this guy in the 4th, 5th round, he's definitely one of the integral parts of your team, and
It gets tougher.
having him not perform, yeah, it gets pretty tough. Do I want to say this week should be a good one? I'd like to. I would like to say that if there's going to be a week that Ravens pass catchers should be involved, it should be this one. The Bengals defense isn't very good. Their offense has picked it up. They have looked really good the last couple of weeks. I know they lost that one against the Chiefs, but that's when they finally woke up and figured it out and started playing football.
Mm-hmm.
And then obviously last week against the Panthers, they did well. The Ravens pass defense hasn't looked too good either. So it just very well could be
A
one of
higher
those
scoring game. It could
higher
be.
scoring comes down to the last possession type of games. And in one of those kind of games, I think I don't know. I'm just having a hard time actually recommending like because personally I'm not starting Mark Andrews. I'm
I
starting
agree.
Tucker Kraft instead. I mean, I don't really have much of Zay Flowers. So as far as whether or not I'd start him this week, sure. I think this is a decent week that he should get some opportunity to do something.
Yeah.
But it's hard to figure out because they just run so much misdirection and they're always just doing so much different stuff on offense that the ball could be going to anyone on any given play. It's like there's no need to get some specific player the ball at any time when they have Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry in the backfield. At least that's the way it's looking so far.
Yeah.
Those are the only two I'm really super comfortable starting. And I mean, if you got Tuck, I'd throw him in this game. I like Tuck in this game.
Yeah.
Obviously,
I
I like
think
him.
it was not underestimated, but the difference Derrick Henry has made in this offense, of the entire offense, of how it goes to operation, is incredible. I mean, he's still got it. I just didn't think Derrick Henry would still have it to this degree, and he does. So it has changed a lot for sure. The Bengals side of the ball, yeah, they are starting to catch a rhythm. Joe Burrow has finished as a top 10 quarterback, these past 3 weeks, only week one against the Patriots, he struggled. So I like Joe Burrow. Zach Moss, I don't think he's going to have the greatest day on the ground, but these past 2 weeks, he's seen 6 targets and 4, catching 5 and 4 respectively. I think you can plug him in just for his pass catching ability alone. And if they do happen to get somewhere around the goal line, they have shown they will run it with him. So I don't mind Zach Moss. Chase
I mean, if
Brown,
you're playing Zach Moss this week, you're hoping for a touchdown.
for sure.
I think same thing with Chase Brown.
Yeah, and Chase Brown's been explosive. He obviously doesn't get as many looks as Zach Moss, but it's the same thing. You're hoping for an explosive play, a touchdown, something like that. I don't complete. Again, we're getting thin at the running back, and a lot of people don't have better options. So I don't mind Chase Brown if you have to go there. They've shown that he'll be involved in the offense enough to feel comfortable that he's not going to completely burn you if you have to play him this week.
Yeah, he's probably not going to goose you.
Yeah.
I mean, going up against the Ravens defense, who has been very good against the rush, it's probably going to look like 5 or 6 points, being honest, at the end of the day. But
Yeah. And we're seeing T ramp up a bit. He's seen 16 targets in his first 2 weeks this season. I think you can roll him and Jamar. Yoshavas, I said it correct that time, right?
yeah, I believe so.
Yeah, he's still playing. Like he played 76% of snaps at Carolina, but he only saw 1 target. I think he'll see more than 1 target, but it's going to happen when you start getting all your mouths back and you have Jamar, you have T, you're getting it to the running backs a bit, and you're even getting it to the tight ends. You know who's the next?
Eric All Jr.
Eric
I was very pissed off that Austin got him when I tried to pick him up.
Eric All Jr. He's another guy. He's gotten 4 targets the past 3 games. He's gotten 4 catches for right around 30 yards. He's one of those tight ends where I'm not saying I'm picking him up and starting him, but at least the past 3 weeks, he would not have completely burned you. So,
No, I think in Dynasty it's a great pickup.
oh yeah. Oh yeah. He's a good stash. We saw Gesicki have some usage the first 3 weeks. He only played 33% of snaps and got a pass for -9 yards. So I'm staying away from Gesicki this week. Evan McPherson, I think he could be a good play. The defense, no. But I do think this one is going to be a good game.
I mean, it tends to be when Lamar and Joe Burrow are both healthy. Most of the time, the game comes down to the final possession. So, looking forward to this one. But yeah, touching on Yoshavas, it's like that's the way it should be.
Yes.
It is the way it should be. He should not be out there getting touchdowns into like Joe Burrow. Throw it to the guys who have been pissed off all offseason. Like,
the guys you're
make
going to have to
them
pay.
happy.
Yeah.
Yes, like, dude, do you guys want to win games or not? Like, I don't know, but yeah. The Oshavas experience is hopefully over, and we're back to regularly scheduled programming with the 2 superstar receivers on that team.
Yep.
Which for real life, I don't care. Fantasy football, that's what we need.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But that was it.
That was it for our morning games, guys. We will be back with the Thursday night recap, as well as probably going over some injuries just in general. And then we got, the rest of our previews.
Mm-hmm.
We might try to get a little head-to-head in there if we can.
Yeah.
But you never know. But Derek, go ahead and take this one.
As always, the support is always appreciated. Any questions, comments, advice you guys need, feel free to drop it in the comments. And as always, come back next time, take more reps to the first team.